All right, for more on this story, let's bring in SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce. Sherwin, this is obviously a very big moment in history. It certainly is. This has been a target for many years, this particular individual, and looking and aiming at nuclear capabilities within Iran. What is the US saying about this at the moment?
So let's kind of just take a step back, Leanne, and sort of piece together how we got here, right? Israel has been concerned about Iran's uranium enrichment, which Iran to this day affirms that is only for civilian purposes, and have is part of Iranian doctrine that they do not want to develop a nuclear weapon. But what the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, said just Thursday morning is this. The board voted that and found that earlier Thursday, Iran was in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. The IAEA found Iran was not, Leanne, in compliance in terms of declaring nuclear materials and activities, and expressed concern about Iran's uranium enrichment, which could be used to make a nuclear weapon. The first indication that something was afoot was when we heard that the United States was removing non-essential staff from the Baghdad embassy in Iraq, and then, of course, allowing non-essential family members from military bases in the region to leave. And this sort of prefaced the idea that we might be getting into some military action here. We have just earlier got a statement from Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, Leanne. He's also the acting national security advisor. Rubio says this: tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. The United States was not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believed this action was necessary for its self-defense. So they were given a heads up, Leanne, that this might happen. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target the US interests or personnel. Why he is making that statement is because Iran's defense minister earlier this week said that if there was an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, they would then target not only Israel, but also US bases in the region. We have also just received a statement from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, saying this morning he condemns any military escalation in the Middle East. He's particularly concerned by Israeli attacks on nuclear installations in Iran, while talks between Iran and the United States on the status of Iran's nuclear program are underway. You'll know, Leanne, that the US teams and the Iranian teams were due to meet in Muscat, Oman on Sunday for, I think, the fourth or fifth round in these ongoing nuclear talks about Iran's nuclear program. So while these negotiations are ongoing, Israel has now decided to strike at military installations in Iran and, of course, the nuclear sites. The Secretary General recalls the obligation of UN member states to act in accordance with the UN Charter and international law. He asks both sides to show maximum restraint, avoiding at all costs a descent into a deeper conflict, a situation, as we all know, that this region simply cannot afford. There are so many fires in the Middle East. He's often warned that the entire region might become an inferno.
Well, certainly, and one of the big things, and I know you did allude to it, but I think what everybody is sitting back and waiting for is to see the response from Iran, because I think all of us know that they're not going to just sit back and take this.
Well, you'll recall, of course, Iran will assert its right to self-defense, right? Something Israel is doing in relation to its continued military operation against Hamas in Gaza. Iran will now assert its right to self-defense. It did so in October last year, responding to various Israel assassinations of Iranian officials and Iranian allies, including Ismail Haniyeh, the then political chief of Hamas, who happened to be in Tehran when the Israeli military took them out. And of course, you then had those 200, sorry for the bump, those 200 ballistic missiles that were sent from Iran into Israel. So the Iranians will respond. They often say that if they are attacked first, they will respond. The question is, how will they respond now? What weaponry will they use? Will they target US military sites? Will it be attacks against only Israel? A response is due here, because certainly the Iranians have said that that is what they will do.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherwin, before I let you go, I know it's about to hit Friday on your side. You're still lingering in the late hours of Thursday, but Saturday is going to be a big day in the US, and if I may just very quickly touch on that with you, that military parade, along with the big birthday celebrations of the US President Donald Trump and threats that there's going to be many King's protests taking place around the country, which is perhaps going to threaten what's going on. I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of an update on this and what's expected on Saturday.
Well, this Israeli strike on Iran just, I think, adds a additional layer to the cake, as it were. You'll also recall that there are National Guard and Marines that have been deployed to the state of California. There is a judicial process underway. A federal judge has just ruled that the president overstepped his legal right to deploy the National Guard to California to quell protests there over the head of the governor of California, that is essentially the commander-in-chief of the California National Guard. You then allude to the fact that there is a big anniversary military parade, the likes of which the United States has not seen in decades. The last military parade they had was at the conclusion of the Gulf War in 1991. The president wanting to have a military parade to mark I believe it's the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. But it also, Leanne, coincides with the president's 79th birthday. So that will be certainly undercut by events that are now escalating in the Middle East. We just simply don't know where to focus. California, Washington, D.C., and the Middle East is on fire. What can we possibly have next?
That's a good question. Not sure I want to know the answer. SABC News correspondent Sherwin, Bryce, thank you. A busy weekend ahead of you, and certainly a busy day ahead of us today as well.